My husband confessed to me that he had cheated. He said he was willing to leave empty-handed, give me all the family's assets as compensation for my 10 years of devotion. Seeing the urgency and sincerity in his eyes, I swallowed the disgust in my heart. I forgive you, we won't divorce. He grew frantic, resorting to hitting, yelling, and kneeling, pressuring me to divorce. I calmly made one demand. He complied. I signed the divorce papers. Not long after the divorce, my husband regretted it and knelt, begging me to remarry him. Kevin and I had been married for 10 years. We met working at the same company. He was a brand new hire then, while I had already risen to the position of team leader. At the time, Director Joyce had high hopes for me, urging me to push myself, become a manager in a year, take her spot within 3. As a newcomer, Kevin was assigned to me. I taught him the business hands-on, how to pursue accounts, negotiate deals, retain clients, watching him rise from a monthly salary of a few thousand to tens of thousands. Through all that frequent contact, Kevin confessed his feelings to me, saying he was willing to be my soldier forever, to stand by me as we fought and struggled, to move forward with me and never back down. I was moved by his words and agreed to be with him. Not long after we got together, at the crucial moment when I was competing for the manager position, I unexpectedly became pregnant. I was torn. I didn't want to give up a life, but I also didn't want to give up the manager role. That position was the result of my day and night efforts, overtime, and hard work to become indispensable. When Kevin learned I was pregnant, he knelt on one knee in front of the whole company and proposed, promising to love me for life, to protect me, and to never let me suffer any grievance. Amid the crowd's jeers and encouragement, I was moved to tears and happily nodded yes. Joyce talked to me and told me to think it over before resigning, keep the position, have the baby, and then return to work. Resigning would make it very difficult to come back. My head was clouded by love. I refused Joyce's good advice, resolutely quit, and stayed home to be a full-time housewife and care for the child. After I left, Kevin's career rose steadily. Within a year he went from team lead to manager. The child at home was obedient and sensible, and life was blissful. Just as I was basking in that so-called happiness, even heaven couldn't bear it. On an otherwise ordinary noon, for no discernible reason, I suddenly had an overwhelming, heartfelt urge to bring Kevin lunch, an urge that felt especially strong. So I cooked Kevin's favorite dishes, carefully packed them into a lunchbox, and hurried down to the company. To my surprise, I saw him coming out of the hotel across from the office, holding hands with a female colleague. They were laughing and talking like a couple madly in love. Kevin seemed to sense something and immediately looked up. I panicked and hid behind a delivery truck, too afraid to confront them. Only after they entered the office building did I cautiously leave. Back at home, I sat on the sofa with my thoughts in tatters, unsure what to do. I was in a state of complete disarray. Kevin came home from work on time, but I didn't go to embrace him as I used to. He looked puzzled and reached out to hug me. I pulled away. I didn't want any physical contact with him. I felt nauseated. My body revolted against this man. "Honey, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Kevin asked, puzzled, reaching out again as if to press his hand to my forehead to check for a fever. I pulled away once more, not knowing how to face him, and tossed out a casual lie. "I'm not feeling well. Sleep in the study tonight, I want to rest." Before Kevin could speak, I fled in a rush, humiliatingly retreating into the master bedroom. When I saw Kevin that moment, I had imagined hitting him, scolding him, roaring questions at him, tearing our faces apart, losing myself in a hysterical fight. But in the end, reason won over impulse. It told me not to act rashly, to handle everything calmly. The next day I used the excuse of catching up to meet Joyce. She was in a sharp suit, her hair casually draped over her shoulders, her presence still so commanding. "Long time no see. I thought you'd forgotten me after getting married and living the high life," she teased as soon as we sat down. I felt a little embarrassed. After leaving the company, I'd been busy taking care of the child and never formally invited Joyce out to thank her for mentoring me back then. Now that something's happened, I remembered her. What an ungrateful wretch I am, only calling on Zhong Wuyan when in need. I gave a self-mocking laugh. Joyce, it's my fault. I was wrong. Joyce noticed something off in my mood and stopped smiling. What happened? I didn't want to air our dirty laundry, so I just smiled and said it was nothing, lying that I was feeling sentimental from not seeing her for so long. Joyce didn't press further. Prompted by my indirect prodding, she gradually opened up and began chattering away, endlessly recounting office gossip. Who had started dating then broken up, whose husband cheated on his boyfriend, which girlfriend had hooked up with a boss, and who had just been promoted. But Joyce talked about Kevin the most, praising him as smart and capable, saying he had a real shot at her director's position. She said he was meticulous in his work, fair and just, never showing favoritism. A while back, the boss that the teen next door had failed to win happened to be connected to a member of Kevin's team through the same badminton association, and that connection landed the boss's contract. When Kevin found out, he immediately handed the contract over to Tina, criticizing the team member's actions as against company policy. This practice isn't approved officially by the company, but behind the scenes everyone turns a blind eye. As long as it doesn't become a public scandal, no one bothers to intervene. A warning bell rang in my head. It seemed that this Tina was the girl who had walked out of the hotel with Kevin yesterday. Is this Tina a new hire? I feigned indifference and asked, I haven't heard Kevin mention her. She's new, she joined after you left the company, but she's impressive. She closed a big order right away and climbed to team leader. Your Kevin isn't close to her, apart from business dealings, they shouldn't have any private contact. After all, your Kevin goes straight home after work. Even funnier, one time I asked Kevin to notify Tina about a meeting, and he actually didn't even have her contact information. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, Kevin really would pass for a good husband and a good father. He goes home immediately after work, reports when he has social obligations and leaves as soon as they're over, lets me look through his phone whenever I want, and contacts with the opposite sex are purely normal work communication. Indeed, Tina's contact wasn't in his phone. I didn't expect him to be playing the lunchtime lover game. No contact at work unless it was business, pretending not to know each other after work, only together during the lunch break. As for the location, maybe a hotel, maybe Tina's home, or perhaps another apartment Kevin had bought. I coaxed Tina's address out of Joyce with hints and innuendo. It was less than 10 minutes from the office. I found her place, a 3-bedroom apartment. My palms were sweaty with nerves, but I forced myself to look composed as I pressed the doorbell. Tina opened the door in sportswear, sizing me up with a puzzled look. Who are you? I produced the ID I'd prepared in advance and handed it to her. I'm from an agency. Is your place for sale? I'm here to shoot a video today. She glanced at the ID and then at me, still not entirely convinced. Someone already came to shoot a video the day before yesterday. That was another agency, I said. I saw your listing for sale on their website. Saying that, I opened the agency app and handed it to her. When selling a house, it's best to list with several agencies. Besides selling faster, you can also get the best price. Tina skimmed the app and then checked my ID again before letting me into the house. I looked around cautiously, took out my phone and snapped photos everywhere, and didn't forget to strike up conversation. Miss Tina, you have a great figure. What kind of exercise do you usually do? Yoga, running, things like that. Women, you know, our looks are our capital, you have to put effort into maintaining it. I don't want to end up like those frumpy old hens. I forced a smile and agreed, yes, you keep your figure really well. Tina sat down on her yoga mat and continued her exercises as if to herself, feel free to take pictures, you can shoot anywhere. With her permission, I went through the house looking for any sign of a man. When I reached the master bedroom, Tina's phone rang, she put it on speaker, and a familiar voice came through the handset. Want to meet for lunch tomorrow? I booked a 5-star hotel, order whatever you like at noon. Sure, it works. I happen to have a client meeting tomorrow afternoon. After it's over you can go back to the office, I'll go to the client. Okay, it's settled then. Listening to their conversation, this wasn't the first time they'd done this. I took a few deep breaths and forced a smile at the corner of my mouth. Miss Tina, is he your boyfriend? After this apartment is sold, will you need to buy a place? Tina kept up her yoga pose, her tone full of disdain. Boyfriend? We're just getting what we need from each other. He bought this place too, he doesn't feel comfortable living here at all. Seeing the shock in my eyes, she immediately laughed and offered advice. Women shouldn't fall into the love trap. Stay clear-headed and know what you want. I nodded and continued to play the role of the real estate agent, carrying on filming. When the camera swept across her vanity table, I froze. On the tabletop jewelry box, a diamond ring sat conspicuously. I stepped closer in disbelief to inspect it. Tina seemed to notice my curiosity. That diamond ring was from the man who called earlier, she said. He said it was a 1-week anniversary gift. She gave a mocking smile. Isn't it ridiculous? He gives me a cheap little chip of a diamond. My hand trembled as I picked up the diamond ring. It was the gift Kevin gave me for our 6th wedding anniversary. Back when Kevin proposed, he used a plain band and I happily said yes. After we were married he promised that once he made money he'd replace it with a diamond ring. In our 6th year he kept his promise and brought home a diamond ring as an anniversary gift. Later, at some point, that ring went missing. I asked Kevin about it. He said he hadn't seen it and told me not to look, that lost things have a way of turning up on their own. It turned out the ring hadn't been found, he had taken it to woo another woman. I stood there dazed, holding the ring. Tina had somehow come up behind me. You should take this ring back, she said. I panicked and put the ring down, trying to act composed. Miss Tina, don't joke about this, a ring this valuable, how could I possibly keep it? The ring was yours to begin with, she said. It's a bit big on me and keeps slipping off. Tina took the ring and slipped it onto my ring finger. The size was perfect, neither too big nor too small. She recognized me. Usually when a wife meets the other woman it turns into a fistfight, or at least a war of insults. But when I met the other woman, I was at a loss, even wanting to run away. That night I sat on the living room sofa, nervous, Tina's words replaying in my head over and over. At 7, Kevin unusually didn't come home on time and was 2 hours late. The moment he walked in he dropped to his knees in front of me, full of remorse. Honey, I cheated on you. I snapped at him. Tina told you? Yes. I wronged you first. I'm willing to leave with nothing, the house, the car, the savings, all yours, consider it compensation for the years I stole from you. And the child, I won't fight for custody. The child can stay with you, and I'll pay for their school fees and medical expenses. I looked at his earnest face, swallowed the nausea rising in me, and pretended not to care. I forgive you. We won't get a divorce. Kevin was a little taken aback, frozen in place. I stroked his face. We've been married 10 years. You just made a mistake for a moment, and I forgive you. You only committed an error any man in the world could commit. Kevin was even more bewildered. This wasn't what he had anticipated. He expected me to be furious, to question him, to cry, to demand a divorce immediately. He hadn't imagined I'd be so calm. I went to see Tina today because I wanted to see what kind of woman could seduce my husband. She's youthful and energetic, she's got the body, there's no matching her between the two of us. I heard the house she's listing was a gift from you, and that you bought her a little villa as well, right? A momentary panic flashed across Kevin's face, then he quickly recovered his composure. The house and the villa weren't bought by me, Tina bought them herself. Don't think you can sue Tina for them as marital property. I'm not trying to get them back. Consider them a parting gift to Tina. You break up and stop being a lunchtime lover, okay? The money he'd spent on Tina couldn't be retrieved, I already knew that. Tina had told me, Kevin borrowed a sum from a friend, the money was transferred directly into Tina's account, and Kevin then withdrew cash each month to repay that friend. I couldn't trace it at all. When he heard I didn't want a divorce, Kevin grew even more panicked. I cheated, why wouldn't you divorce me? I'll leave everything to you, isn't that enough? I want to be with Tina. I shook my head. Not enough. I want you, body and soul, bound to me for the rest of your life. If you cheat again, I'll accuse you of bigamy and ruin your reputation. Enough. I don't want to stay with you, you old hag. Kevin finally tore off his mask. He was furious. Look at you, how could you compare to Tina? Tina's young, pretty, has a great figure, she works hard and makes a lot of money. Look at you, you just complain to me every day about the kids slipping grades, complain about my mom arguing with my sister-in-law. All you do is ask me for money, saying it's for tutoring and extracurriculars for the kids, I bet you're just after my cash. So that's how he saw me. No wonder he had been pretending to be the loving husband all this time. If you wanted a divorce you could have said so, there's no need to put on the act of a good husband and good father every day. If it weren't for that old woman at the company being so close to you, I wouldn't have played along for so long. Anyway, the director position has already been decided, I don't fear you anymore. It turned out he had all along been using my relationship with Joyce. Hearing that, my mind suddenly went crystal clear and I quickly ran through the pros and cons anyway. I'm not divorcing you. I want you and Tina never to be together in this life. I want you to support me forever. You're about to become a director, directors make $5 million a year, half of that will be mine. Also, don't forget, you aren't a director yet. If I ask Joyce for a favor based on our friendship, do you think she won't help me? My words were like a bucket of cold water, dousing the anger out of Kevin. He panicked immediately and, with a thud, knelt in front of me. Wife, I'm sorry, it's my fault, I'm wrong. I'm scum, I'm a degenerate, I'm an unfaithful man, it's my fault. He slapped himself a few times with both hands, then grabbed my hand. Wife, I know I'm wrong. I'm willing to leave with nothing to compensate you. If we divorce, everything will be yours. The house has no mortgage, the car is paid off, and there are a few million in savings, enough for you and the child for the rest of your lives. I was watching his performance when my phone suddenly pinged with a message. I opened it, sultry music played from the phone, Kevin's face flushed instantly, but he didn't try to stop me. In the video, the person on screen is Kevin, his hands are bound, and his body is mottled with bruises here and there. The only thing of Tina that appears is a pale, tender hand. After watching the video, my heart felt like it was being cut, tears streamed down my face, and the hand holding my phone trembled uncontrollably. Kevin, we've been together 10 years. Don't you know how much I love you? Tina is so young, how could she love you? She loves your money. Kevin stiffened his neck and retorted, Tina loves me. She supports me leaving with nothing. She's willing to be with me as I build things from scratch. She loves me. Me, nonsense, she loves your money. Kevin, wake up. Ever since you became director your salary's $5 million a year, how is that no money? It was you and me who built everything from nothing. Try telling her you have a terminal illness, she'd run faster than a rabbit. Kevin, no, she wouldn't. She would never. No matter what I become, she'll love me. I calmed down gradually. Okay. If she doesn't mind you having a terminal illness and is still willing to stay with you, then I'll agree to the divorce. When Kevin saw me relent, he was overjoyed, I'll make you completely convinced. Kevin used his connections to procure a fake medical record claiming liver cancer. To make it believable he even stained the face and hands yellow. 10 minutes after the record and photos went out, Tina appeared at our door. The moment she saw him, she hugged Kevin tightly, her eyes reddened, her voice choking, Kevin, no matter what happens to you I'll be by your side. Even if I have to spend all our savings, I'll cure you. Let's go to the hospital right away and test. If it fits, I'll donate half my liver to you. Tina pulled Kevin toward the hospital, and Kevin quickly stopped her, staring at me intensely. You see that? Tina loves the person, not the money. You lost. Yes, I lost. I signed the divorce papers. A month later I received the divorce certificate. Not long after the divorce, I received a court summons. Tina sued Kevin and me as a creditor. She produced a stack of IOUs and transfer records to prove she had loaned Kevin $50 million, and now demanded that Kevin and I repay the loan. I pointed out that the loan had no signature, that Kevin hadn't asked for it to be used for the household, and that he refused to take on the debt. Kevin immediately produced transfer records to refute me, to make me shoulder the liability. He even produced payment records for the 2 apartments he'd given to Tina and had the properties transferred into my name. The transfer records, the loan amount, everything matched. The judge annulled the divorce settlement between Kevin and me. All assets had to be repaid to Tina first. The houses and cars were auctioned. The bank balances were directly seized. After the liquidation, Kevin and I still owed Tina $10 million. That debt was split 50-50 between Kevin and me. I not only didn't get a single cent, I was hit with $5 million in liabilities. After leaving the courtroom, Kevin stood before me with his chest puffed out. Well? How does owing $5 million feel? Gold digger, I told you to walk away with nothing, did you really sign? You're ruthless, not leaving me a single cent. If you had offered me 80% up front, I wouldn't have let you be the one in debt. I curled my lip and sneered. As if you wouldn't be on the hook. I really wouldn't be. This was a setup Tina and I arranged. As soon as she received the money she transferred it to me and tore up the IOU. Kevin bragged, puffing his chest and whistling, next week I officially become a director. Beg me, for the sake of being a married couple, how about I hire you as head of the cleaning department? I smiled at the sight of his smug little triumph. Kevin, laugh all you want, next week it'll be your turn to cry. Kevin must have found out where I live somehow. His hair was messy, his face haggard as he crouched at my door. Seeing me, he immediately lunged forward, grabbed my hand, voice trembling, Wife, I was wrong. Let's remarry. I sneered coldly, back then you insisted on divorcing to be with Tina, and now that the divorce is final you're begging to remarry? Are you all right? Kevin instantly put on a miserable face. Wife, you were right, Tina never loved me. I nodded, I know. She became a director. Why, you know she became a director. Kevin stared at me in shock, then quickly recovered his composure. It must have been Joyce who told you. Tina, that bitch, sent my fake medical records to the boss. The boss thought I had a terminal illness and was unfit to be director, so he gave the director position to Tina. By the way, honey, you know Joyce. Talk to Joyce and tell her I don't have cancer, it's all fake. Kevin held my hand tight as if clutching a lifeline. But I wasn't a lifeline, I was the last straw that would break the camel's back. I shook his hand off, wiped it repeatedly with a disinfectant wipe, and flicked it into his face. Why should I help you? Honey, I know I was wrong. Please help me, will you? Our assets are still with Tina. I'm going to sue her and tell the judge I don't owe her that money, it's all fabricated. Kevin, when you put me under that huge debt, didn't you ever think we'd end up like this? Kevin immediately panicked, his eyes darting around as he changed the subject to cover his guilt. Honey, now's not the time for that. We need to get our money back from Tina. I didn't care at all, then go. Kevin looked a little stunned by my attitude and still tried to persuade me. At that moment, the elevator doors opened. Tina didn't see Kevin, raised the seafood she was carrying and shouted excitedly, I bought king crab, steam it tonight. I've been so busy these past few days I haven't had time to eat the meals you cook. Tina, what are you doing here? Kevin roared, then glanced at Tina and then at me, his speech beginning to stammer. You, that's right, This was the trap Tina and I had set. The day I went to find Tina, she recognized me at first sight, deliberately let me in, deliberately put the call on speaker in front of me. When I picked up that diamond ring and stared blankly, she was the first to break the silence. I know you're Kevin's wife. Take back this ring. When Kevin gave me this ring, the moment I put it on I knew it wasn't meant for me. He lied and said he'd got the size wrong. Tina's bluntness left me at a loss, even wanting to flee, as if I were the shameful mistress hiding in the dark. Tina was frank. Do you want to hit me or shout at me? Do whatever you like. I won't hit back or shout back, but what I'm more curious about is how you're going to handle this. I took a few deep breaths and asked a stupid question. When did you and Kevin start? Why destroy my family? Tina exhaled deeply and gave a self-mocking smile. He started targeting me as soon as I joined the company. He brought me my first order. At first he'd tell me funny stories about newcomers making mistakes to break the ice, then he introduced me to a few more clients to build my trust and lower my guard. He often complained to me about stress and that no one understood him, until that noon when we were entertaining clients together, he got drunk, and we naturally ended up together. Impossible. My first reaction was that Tina was lying. He doesn't have your contact information, he leaves work on time every day, how could he be confiding in you? Tina showed no fluster at being exposed. She tapped casually on her phone and handed it to me. I took the phone. The chat history was all their conversations, the typing habits, the voice messages, all Kevin. It turned out they were using two separate accounts. Tina asked me again whether I wanted the man or the money. I chose the money, all of it, everything, all of it. And I wanted him to have nothing. So we set the trap. Tina used my discovery of his affair as leverage, forcing Kevin to choose between the two of them. Kevin, of course, chose the younger, more lucrative Tina, but he couldn't bear to give up the family's assets. With the help of cronies and their cunning, they hatched a vicious plan. By certain means, a large amount of debt was manufactured, with Tina as the creditor. Tina sued, seized all the property, and left me shouldering heavy debts. Afterwards, 20% of the assets went to Tina, and the money I had to repay naturally ended up in Kevin's pocket. Unfortunately for him, Tina had long since joined forces with me. Kevin fell step by step into our trap. Tina took the director's position. I took all the assets. It's not the man that's the sweetest prize to steal, it's his resources, his job, his money that's the most delicious.